The sound is not what you expect. If you close your eyes and you listen to the raw audio from that day, June 22nd, 2007, you don't hear a roar. Not yet. You hear the wind. But it's a thin, high-pitched whistling. It sounds like air escaping a tire, multiplied by 1,000. It sounds like air escaping a tire, multiplied by 1,000. It sounds almost digital. And then you hear the voice of the young man. He is standing on the side of the Trans-Canada Highway, a camera in his shaking hands, staring at the horizon. He is a meteorology student. He knows the math. He knows the thermodynamics of the sky. But what he is seeing through his lens, it doesn't make sense. It defies the textbooks. Usually, a tornado is a wedge, a dark, bruising mass that scrapes the earth. But this is a white snake, a radiant, sun-bleached rope, dangling from a cloud base that looks too high, too calm, too innocent. It looks like a drill bit, a clean, white drill bit, spinning silently against the deep blue canvas of the Manitoba summer sky. It looks harmless. But this is the deception. This is the trick. Because that rope is spinning at speeds that we, as a species, struggle to comprehend. Inside that slender white tube, the air is moving faster than a Formula One car, faster than a bullet train. It is approaching speeds that have never and ever been officially recorded on Canadian soil. We are about to walk minute by minute through the 35 minutes that changed meteorology forever. We are going to deconstruct the anatomy of a miracle and the physics of a monster. If you want to understand how the atmosphere can turn a beautiful summer evening into a crime scene, and if you have the stomach to look directly into the eye of the strongest wind ever verified in this country, then keep listening, because the drill bit is about to touch the ground. To understand the violence, we first have to understand the peace. Elie Manitoba. If you have never been to the Canadian prairies, you cannot truly grasp the scale of the sky. It is a dome. A massive, unending bowl of blue that presses down on the flat earth. There are no hills to hide behind, no valleys to shelter in. If something is coming for you, you see it for an hour before it arrives. It is Friday evening, June 22nd, the longest days of the year. The sun is high, refusing to set, bathing the wheat fields in a golden, heavy light. The town of Elie is small, maybe 500 souls. It is the kind of place where the geography is measured in neighbors, not street names. It sits just off the Trans-Canada Highway, a lifeline of asphalt that connects the east of the country to the west. And on this particular Friday, the air is wrong. It isn't just hot. It is heavy. It is a physical weight. The humidity is sitting at tropical levels, clinging to your skin, making the simple act of breathing feel like work. Meteorologists call this CAPE. Convective, available potential energy. Think of it like gasoline vapor. The atmosphere over southern Manitoba has been soaking in solar radiation all day, building up this tremendous volatile energy. It wants to rise. It wants to explode upwards, but it is trapped. There is a cap in the atmosphere, a layer of warm air sitting on top of the humidity, holding it down like a lid on a pressure cooker. For the people of Elie, it just feels like a sticky, uncomfortable Friday night. Lynn and Les Kauppila are at home. Their house is a sanctuary. It's a beautiful, strong structure built on a solid foundation on the edge of town. They are sitting on their deck. The ice is melting in their glasses. They are talking, laughing, perhaps discussing the plans for the weekend. They are suffering from what survival psychologists call normalcy bias. It is the brain's defense mechanism. When we look at the sky and we see dark clouds, our brain tells us, it will rain, it will storm, but it won't kill me. We assume that the world we woke up in this morning is the same world we will go to sleep in tonight. Lynn looks out over the fields. The horizon is darkening. The blue is turning to a bruised purple. The wind is picking up, rustling the leaves of the poplars that line their property. Looks like a storm, she might have said. She has no idea that the cap is breaking. 10 miles away, the lid blows off the pressure cooker. The warm air punches through. The updraft explodes into the stratosphere, towering 60,000 feet into the air in a matter of minutes. The supercell is born, and it begins to rotate. The clock ticks forward. 6:25 p.m. Most tornadoes are messy. They are wrapped in rain. They are hidden behind curtains of hail. You don't see them until they are on top of you. But the Elie storm is a low-precipitation supercell. It is a dry ghost. North of the highway the funnel descends. It is exquisite. It is terrifyingly beautiful. Because the sun is still shining on it, the funnel glows a brilliant, stark white. It snakes down, hesitant at first, like a finger testing the water. And then, it connects. Dust. A small puff of dust kicks up from the field. Lynn and Les Kauppila see it. They stand up on their deck. They are not running. They are not panicking. They are watching. Why? Because it looks so small. From a distance, it looks like a dust devil. A whirlwind you might see in a parking lot. It is skinny. It dances. It loops and curls, changing shape every second. It doesn't look like the monsters in the movies. It doesn't look like the wedge that leveled Oklahoma. So, they watch. In the driveway of the Reimer residence, a large, stately home, nearby people are coming out to look. Cameras are clicking. This is a spectacle. This is nature putting on a show. But there is a hidden danger here. A fatal flaw in our perception. We judge the strength of a tornado by its width. We think, big tornado, big wind. Skinny tornado, small wind. This is a lie. The physics of the Elie tornado are similar to an ice skater pulling her arms in. As the funnel tightens, as it shrinks, the conservation of angular momentum takes over. The spin accelerates, and accelerates, and accelerates, and accelerates. That skinny white rope is spinning faster than a centrifuge. Robert Wiebe is in his delivery truck. He is driving down the highway, the Trans-Canada. He sees the white snake crossing the road ahead of him. He slows down. He stops. He isn't scared. He is fascinated. He watches as the bottom of the funnel glides over the asphalt. It doesn't rip the pavement up. It doesn't throw cars. It just slides. It's weak, the brain says. It's just a little F0, maybe an F1. But notice something else. Usually, tornadoes in this part of the world travel fast. They are commuters. They touch down. They race across the fields at 30, 40, 50 miles per hour, and they dissipate. They are hit-and-run drivers. But the Elie tornado slows down. It hits the brakes. It stops moving across the map. It finds a spot just south of the highway, just near the town, and it decides to park. 6:30 p.m. The atmosphere shifts. You can hear it on the witness videos. The wind is no longer whistling. The pitch is dropping. It is becoming deeper, throaty. The rope is beginning to thicken. It is feeding. It is inhaling that hot, sticky air from the wheat fields, drinking the energy that has been baking in the sun all day. The white funnel begins to turn gray, then brown, then black. Why is it changing color? Because it is no longer just air. It is earth. It is soil. It is pulverizing the ground, chewing up the black Manitoba dirt and lifting it into the sky. Lynn Kauppila is still on her deck. But the fascination is curdling into dread. The tornado is not moving away. It is lingering. It is looping in tight circles, like a predator pacing a cage. And it is getting closer. This is the open loop of the disaster, the moment where the survivors realize that their assessment of the threat was fundamentally wrong. They thought they were spectators. They are not spectators. They are targets. Let's pause on the physics for a second. We need to understand what is happening inside that funnel. When a tornado stalls, when it stops moving forward, something terrible happens to the ground beneath it. If a tornado is moving fast, it swipes a house. It knocks the walls down, blows the roof off, and moves on. The debris is scattered in a line. But when a tornado stops, it becomes a grinder. It doesn't just push. It scours. It acts like a sandblaster. It strips the bark off the trees. It pulls the grass out by the roots. It grinds the asphalt off the road. And if a house is in that circle, It doesn't just get knocked down. It gets erased. 6:32 p.m. The funnel is now a dark, violent cone. It is no longer skinny. It is widening. It is breathing. Justin Hobson, the student, is filming. He zooms in. At the base of the tornado, you can see distinct vortices, smaller tornadoes inside the main tornado. They are whipping around the center, spinning at insane speeds. These are the teeth of the grinder. The sound is changing now. It's starting. It sounds like a train, yes. That's the cliché. But survivors will tell you it's more like a waterfall. A massive, endless waterfall crashing down from a great height, right next to your ear. It is a continuous broadband roar of destruction. Lynn and Les turn to each other. The normalcy bias shatters. The glass of ice water is forgotten. It's coming here, Les says. They are not preppers. They do not have a reinforced concrete bunker. They have a basement, a standard residential basement, and they have a problem. Their house, the house they love, the house they are standing in, it is directly in the path of the grinder. And the grinder is hungry. They run inside. The sliding glass door slams shut. But shutting a glass door slams shut. But shutting a glass door against an F5 tornado is like holding up a piece of paper to stop a bullet. 6:33 p.m. The sky turns a sickly, greenish-black. The light is dying. The wind outside the house begins to scream. Not whistle. Scream. We need to talk about the Reimer House. This is crucial. The Reimer House is down the street. It is a beautiful 2-story home. It is not a trailer. It is not a shack. It is built to code. It is bolted to its foundation with steel anchors. It is designed to withstand the harsh Canadian winters and the prairie storms. It is the symbol of safety. In the video footage that will later be analyzed by engineers around the world, we see the tornado approach the Reimer House. It moves, slowly, almost lazily. It creeps toward the driveway. And then, the impossible happens. We are used to seeing houses explode outward. We are used to seeing roofs fly off. But the Reimer House, the entire structure, it lifts. It detaches from the earth. The whole house, the walls, the floors, the furniture, the memories inside, it floats up into the funnel, intact, for one terrifying second. It hangs there, suspended in the gray, violent air, defying gravity. And then the centrifuge takes it. It shreds. In the blink of an eye, the house disintegrates into millions of splinters. It is atomized. It is turned into confetti. This is the power of wind speeds exceeding 420 kilometers per hour. This is the definition of an F5. And now, that monster, that grinder that just ate a house whole, is turning its eye toward Lynn and Les Kauppila. They are running down the stairs. The air pressure in the house drops so fast their ears pop painfully. The windows aren't breaking. They are exploding outward. The walls are groaning. A deep structural moan of timber being pushed past its breaking point. They reach the bottom of the stairs. They dive into the utility room. They huddle against the concrete wall. Les wraps his arms around Lynn. And then, the world above them ends. The roar becomes deafening. It is not a sound anymore. It is a vibration that rattles their teeth, that shakes their bones. It is the sound of the universe tearing itself apart. Above their heads, the floorboards are ripping away. The ceiling is peeling back. They are no longer in a house. They are inside the drum of a washing machine filled with bricks and steel. Lynn closes her eyes. She waits for the impact. She waits for the crushing weight of the house to fall on them. She waits to die. But the house doesn't fall on them. It falls up. Chaos. It is not a word we use lightly. In physics, chaos is a system that has lost all order. In Elie, at 6:35 p.m., chaos is the sound of the world ending. The tornado has stalled. It has stopped moving across the map. It has planted its feet. Imagine a giant invisible hand pressing a belt sander against the surface of the earth. Now, imagine that belt sander is a mile wide. The first thing to go is the flour mill. It stands on the edge of the danger zone. It is a sturdy structure, industrial, built for work. Metal, concrete, heavy machinery. The outer circulation of the winds, the inflow, hits it first. If you are listening to this, you might picture wind as a force that pushes, like a hand shoving you in the chest. But at this speed, at 300 kilometers per hour, wind doesn't push. It impacts. It strikes like a solid object. Sheet metal begins to peel. It sounds like a scream, a high-pitched, metallic shriek as the steel cladding is ripped from the bolts. The metal sheets don't just fall off, they become missiles. They are caught in the updraft, spinning like razor blades, decapitating the sunflowers in the fields 3 miles away. Then, the core hits. The mill doesn't explode. It implodes. The pressure drop inside the funnel is so severe a vacuum of nearly 100 millibars that the air inside the building tries to escape all at once. The walls buckle inward. The roof collapses. And then, the grinder chews it up. Inside the tornado, there are suction vortices. We need to visualize this. Imagine the main tornado is a carousel, but spinning around the carousel are smaller, faster whirlwinds. They're the size of a carrot, but they're spinning at nearly 500 kilometers per hour. These are the teeth. When a suction vortex hits the wreckage of the flour mill, it doesn't just move the debris. It atomizes it. It turns wood into sawdust. It turns drywall into powder. It turns glass into sand. The witnesses on the highway, Justin Hobson, Robert Weebaday, are watching this happen. Through the lens of the camera, the base of the tornado is now a black, boiling cloud of debris. It looks solid. It looks like a mountain of dirt is rotating. But it isn't dirt. It is pieces of people's lives. It is insulation. It is siding. It is the pulverized remains of industry. And now, that black mountain is moving toward the residential street. Let's talk about the house, because in the history of meteorology, there are certain images that are burned into the collective consciousness. In 1999, it was the bridge in Moore, Oklahoma. In 2011, it was the hospital in Joplin. In Canada, it is the Reimer House. We need to slow this down. We need to look at this frame by frame. Because what happens to this house is the reason we are here. It is the reason this storm is a legend. The house is a 2-story wood frame structure. It is beautiful. It is the kind of house you work your whole life to buy. It has a steep roof, large windows, a garage. It sits on a concrete foundation. And this is critical. It is bolted down. Anchor bolts. Steel rods, embedded in the concrete, threaded through the wooden sill plate of the house and capped with a nut and washer. They are designed to keep the house from sliding off the foundation in a high wind. They are the gold standard of safety. The tornado approaches. On the video, the sky behind the house is a wall of charcoal gray. The trees in the yard are bent double, thrashing, their leaves stripped away in seconds. The wind hits the house. First, the shingles go. They peel off in sheets, like scales being stripped from a fish. Then, the windows pop. Pop, pop. They don't break, they dissolve. The pressure difference blows them out, and the wind rushes in. Now, the house is pressurized. The wind is inside. It is pushing up against the roof. It is pushing out against the walls. Usually this is where a house collapses. The walls blow out, the roof falls in, and you have a pile of rubble. But the Reimer house doesn't collapse. It launches. Watch the video. At timestamp 6:38 p.m. The entire structure, the whole house disconnects from the ground. The anchor bolts hold. They hold for a fraction of a second too long. The force of the updraft is so violent, so absolute, that it snaps the wood itself. The sill plate splinters, and the house rises. It goes up. 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet. It is rotating. It is spinning slowly, gracefully in the air. You can see the bottom of the floorboards. You can see the plumbing pipes dangling. You can see the emptiness where the basement used to be. It looks like a toy. It looks like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. But this is real. This is 200 tons of lumber and steel floating in the sky. And then, the physics of the F5 take over. The inflow jet, a stream of air feeding the tornado, hits the floating house. It detonates. It doesn't fall to the ground and break. It breaks in the air. 1 second, it is a house. The next second, it is a cloud of splinters. It is shredded. It is erased. The roof flies east. The walls fly west. The furniture inside the couches, the tables, the beds are sucked up into the funnel, pulled thousands of feet into the atmosphere. A 3/4-ton GMC van is parked in the driveway. It is filled with drywall. It weighs 6,000 pounds. The wind picks it up. It throws it. Not rolls it. Throws it. It sails through the air like a football, tumbling over the neighbor's roof, and lands in a field hundreds of meters away. This is the violence of the drill bit. It is concentrated. It is focused. And just down the road, less than a block away, Lynn and Les Kauppila are hiding in the dark, and the monster is done with the Reimer House. It is looking for its next meal. Cut to black. We are in the basement. Lynn and Les. The air is cold. Basements in Manitoba are always cold. But now, it feels freezing. The adrenaline is shunting blood away from their extremities. Their hands are numb. They are huddled in the utility room. It is a small space, maybe 6 feet by 6 feet. Concrete floor. Concrete walls. The smell of dust. The smell of laundry detergent. And the noise. Survivors often talk about the freight train. But Lynn will tell you it wasn't a train. It was a physical weight. The sound is so loud it bypasses the ears and vibrates the skull. It creates a pressure in the sinus cavities. It feels like your head is being squeezed in a vise. Thump. Crash. Smash. Above them, things are hitting the house. It sounds like cannonballs. These are debris from the Reimer House. Pieces of 2x4 lumber, flying at 200 miles per hour, are spearing into the siding of the Kauppila home. They are piercing the walls like arrows. Lay is holding Lynn. He is shouting. But she can't hear him. She can see his mouth moving. She can see his mouth moving. She can see the terror in his eyes, the veins standing out on his neck. But there is no voice. The roar consumes everything. And then, the change. The air pressure drops. It happens instantly. 1 second, the pressure is normal. The next, it plummets. Your ears pop, painfully. It feels like you are underwater. It feels like your chest is expanding, like the air is being sucked out of your lungs. The door to the utility room rattles. It bows inward. The nails in the frame scream as they are pulled out. It's here, Lynn thinks. She squeezes her eyes shut. She puts her hands over her head. She curls into a ball. The sound changes. It goes from a roar to a grind. Scree. It is the sound of nails being pulled from wood, 1,000,000 nails. All at once, above them the roof of their house is lifting. The trusses are snapping. The plywood is peeling back. The shingles are already gone, swirling in the troposphere. The ceiling of the living room, the floor above their heads begins to groan. Lynn looks up. She expects to see the drywall crack. She expects to see the drywall crack. She expects to see the house fall down. But she sees light. Daylight. The floor above them is gone. The house is gone. She is looking up from the basement directly into the funnel of the tornado. What does it look like inside an F5? It is not dark. It is gray. A swirling, violent, misty gray. Debris is everywhere. It is orbiting. Lynn sees pieces of her life spinning above her head. A chair. A lamp. Clothing. It is a slow-motion nightmare. But the most terrifying thing is the stillness. For a brief second, they are in the eye of the suction vortex. The wind around them is moving at Mach 0.5. But right where they are sitting, huddled on the concrete, the air is relatively calm. It is the calm of the executioner before the axe drops. Lise pushes her down. Stay down. Stay down! He knows that if the vortex shifts even 5 feet, if that wall of wind moves just a little bit to the left, they will be sucked out. They will be pulled from the basement and thrown into the sky like the Reimer House. They are playing Russian roulette with the atmosphere. Crash. Something heavy lands nearby. A beam. A car. They don't know. They just feel the impact shudder through the concrete slab. Dust. The air is suddenly thick with it. It chokes them. It tastes like dirt. It tastes like pine. It coats their throats, their eyes, their lungs. They are coughing, gagging, gasping for air that isn't full of pulverized building materials. Lynn is praying. She is not a deeply religious woman in the performative sense. But in this moment, there is nothing left but prayer. Please, please, not now. She thinks of her children. She thinks of the neighbors. She thinks of the only ones left. The noise is so loud now that it is no longer sound. It is pain. It is a physical assault on the body. The vibration is shaking her internal organs. And then, the wind shifts. The grinder moves. It doesn't lift. It just slides. It slides east, toward the highway, toward the empty fields. The roar begins to fade. Not disappear, but fade. From a scream to a shout, from a shout to a rumble. But they don't move. They are frozen, paralyzed by the expectation that it will come back, that it will turn around and finish the job. They stay huddled in the corner of the open basement, covered in dust, holding each other, waiting for the sky to fall. Cut to the highway. Robert Weepy is still in his truck. He hasn't moved. He can't move. He has watched the tornado chew through the town. He has watched the tornado chew through the town. He has watched the black clouds swallow the houses. He is gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles are white. He has seen things that his brain refuses to process. He sees a car, a Chrysler Intrepid, flying. It isn't driving. It is airborne. It is tumbling end over end, 30 feet in the air. It looks like a toy car being tossed by a child. It crashes onto a roof. He sees trees, 100-year-old poplars, thick as a barrel snapped like toothpicks. Not blown over. Snapped. The trunks are shattered, the wood exploded. He sees the insulation. It looks like snow. Pink snow. Thousands of pounds of pink fiberglass insulation ripped from the walls of the destroyed homes is raining down on the highway. It covers the asphalt. It covers his windshield. It is surreal. It is a winter scene in the middle of June. And the smell, even inside the truck with the windows up, the smell penetrates. It is the smell of raw earth. When you dig a garden, you smell the soil. It's a rich, organic smell. But this is the smell of the earth being wounded. It is the sharp, pungent scent of deep black soil that hasn't seen the sun in 10,000 years, suddenly ripped open and exposed to the air. Mixed with the smell of pine sap from the shredded trees, mixed with the smell of natural gas. Gas! The thought hits him. The lines are broken. The town is leaking. If there is a spark, he reaches for his phone. He tries to dial 911. His hands are shaking so badly he drops it. He looks back at the tornado. It is changing shape again. It is no longer a drill bit. It is no longer a cone. It is roping out. The roping out. The roping out. The roping out. Phase is the death of a tornado. The circulation stretches. The funnel becomes thin again. It twists and contorts like an agony. It looks weak. It moves into the field east of the town. It thrashes one last time. It kicks up a final cloud of dust. And then it vanishes. Poof. Just like that. 1 minute, the most violent wind on earth is grinding a town to dust. The next minute, blue sky. The funnel dissipates into the clouds. The clouds begin to break. The sun, the late evening sun, comes back out. And then comes the sound that every survivor fears more than the wind. Silence. Absolute ringing silence. No birds, no cars, no wind, no sirens. Not yet, just the heavy, dead silence of a battlefield. Lynn and Les raise their heads. They are alive. They breathe. The air is still dusty, but it is still. Slowly, painfully, they stand up. They are standing on a concrete slab. There are no walls around them. There is no roof. They climb out of the basement. They step over the debris. They walk out onto what used to be their lawn. They look around. The town of Elie looks like a war zone. It looks like a bomb went off. Houses are gone. Not damaged. Gone. The Reimer House, there is nothing left but the foundation. A clean, gray rectangle of concrete. The house has been wiped from the face of the earth. Debris is everywhere. Lumber. Glass. clothing. A child's bicycle, twisted into a knot. A refrigerator, lying on its side in a ditch 100 meters from where it belongs. Lynn looks at Les. His face is gray with dust. He looks like a ghost. Are we, stammers. Are we the only ones? This is the dread. This is the horror. She stammers. Are we the only? They assume everyone is dead. How could anyone survive this? They barely survived, and they were on the edge. The people in the center. The people in the Reimer House. They start to walk. They stumble toward the road. Hello? Les calls out. His voice cracks. Is anyone there? Silence. Hello. Nothing. Just the sound of water spraying from a broken pipe somewhere in the rubble. Hiss! Hiss! Hiss. They walk past the foundation of the Reimer House. They look into the hole. They expect to see bodies. They expect to see bodies. They expect to see blood. They see nothing. Just concrete. Clean, swept concrete. Where are the people? The sirens begin. Faint at first. Coming from the highway, then louder. The volunteer fire department. The RCMP. People start to emerge from the wreckage. A figure climbs out of a ditch. A woman. She's covered in mud. She's shaking. Another figure. A man, walking dazed down the center of the street, holding a dog. Lynn runs to them. Are you okay? Is everyone okay? The confusion is total. No one knows who was home. No one knows who was home. No one knows who was away. The Reimers, someone says. Where are the Reimers? Everyone looks at the empty foundation. The house that flew. They were home, a neighbor whispers. I saw the car. The car is gone. The house is gone. The logic of the situation is cold and hard. If they were in that house, they are dead. There is no surviving a flight like that. The firefighters arrive. They are running. They are carrying medical kits. They are carrying body bags. They are prepared for a mass casualty event. They approach the Reimer Foundation. They start digging through the debris piles in the field. Over here, a firefighter shouts. The crowd freezes. He is pointing at something in the field. It is the Jeep, the Reimer's Jeep. It has been thrown, rolled, and crushed. It is a ball of metal. The firefighter looks inside. Empty. He checks the van. The one thrown across the roof. Empty. He checks the basement. Empty. The panic begins to shift. It shifts from who is dead to where are they? Maybe they were blown away. Maybe they are in the fields, buried under the drywall and the insulation. The search begins. Line up. The fire chief commands. Walk the field, parents. Walk the field. Look for. He stops. He doesn't want to say it. Look for survivors. Lynn joins the line. Les joins the line. The neighbors join the line. They walk through the knee-high wheat. They are looking for their friends. They are looking for the bodies of the people they had drinks with last week. They walk for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They find a photo album. They find a shoe. They find a pristine, unbroken teacup sitting in the mud. But they don't find people. A police car pulls up. An officer gets out. He has a radio in his hand. He looks confused. I just got off with dispatch, he says. The crowd gathers around him. The Reimers, he says. They weren't home. The Reimers, he says. They weren't home. A gasp goes through the crowd. They left, the officer says, 10 minutes before the storm. They went to pick up their daughter. Relief. A wave of relief so strong it almost knocks Lynn over. But, the officer continues. What about the others? The house next door, the mill? The search continues. The sun is setting now. The sky is a brilliant mocking orange. They check every house. They check every basement, mocking orange. They check every house. They check every basement. And one by one the names are checked off. Kauppila, safe. Godin, safe. Hobson, safe. The tally grows. The list of the missing shrinks. But the destruction is so absolute, the violence was so extreme, that the mind refuses to accept the math. An F5 tornado just hit a town. It erased neighborhoods at town readers. It threw cars. There must be a body. Statistics demand a body. The sun dips below the horizon. The darkness comes. The flashlights turn on. They are still looking, because they cannot believe the miracle. They had the body bags ready. They had the triage tent set up. But as the night wears on, the realization begins to dawn on them. A realization that is stranger than the storm itself. They can't find anyone to put in the bags. Saturday morning, June 23rd. The sun rises over Elie. It is a cruel sunrise. It is beautiful. The sky is a perfect cloudless blue. The air is fresh. The birds are singing, loud and insistent, as if they are trying to fill the void left by the roar. But the light reveals something that the darkness had hidden. In the middle of the town, there is a scar. It isn't just a path of destruction. It is a zone of erasure. Lynn and Les Kauppila step out of the wreckage of their basement. They are alive. They are bruised. They are covered in a fine gray powder that smells of pulverized drywall. But they are breathing. They walk out to the street. The asphalt is weird. Les looks down. He bends over and touches the road. The pavement hasn't just been cracked. It has been scoured. The top layer of tar and gravel has been stripped away, leaving the aggregate exposed. It looks like someone took a giant belt sander to the highway. This is the first clue. This is the first breadcrumb for the scientists who are currently driving west from Winnipeg. Wind doesn't do that. Not normal wind. To scour asphalt requires a force that is grinding, scraping, and sustained. They look at the trees. The poplars that lined the street trees that had stood for 50, 60 years are gone. But the ones that are left, they are naked. Debarked. Every scrap of bark has been peeled from the wood. They look like bleached bones sticking out of the ground. The wind was so intense, carrying so much debris, that it acted like a sandblaster. It scrubbed the trees down to the white, smooth heartwood. And then, the grass. Lynn walks toward the Reimer Foundation. She steps on the lawn. The grass is gone. Not flattened. Gone. The dirt is bare. It looks like a plowed field. The tornado didn't just break the grass, it pulled it out by the roots. It vacuumed the earth. This is the moonscape. It is a term used by disaster researchers to describe the center of an EF5 damage track. It is the point where the environment ceases to look like a human habitation and starts to look like the surface of an alien planet. Lynn stands at the edge of the Reimer Foundation. Yesterday, this was a home. It had a kitchen. It had bedrooms. It had a garage. Now it is a clean gray slab. There is no debris on the slab. No broken glass. No sticks. The wind swept it perfectly clean. It looks like it was poured yesterday.
"It's impossible,"
she whispers. The silence is broken by a sound, a small, pathetic sound. Meow. Wind turns. She looks at the pile of rubble that used to be the garage next door. Meow. She digs. She pulls aside a piece of shattered plywood. She lifts a twisted piece of aluminum siding. And there, huddled in a pocket of air covered in gray dust, is a cat. It is shaking. Its eyes are wide, pupils dilated to black saucers. But it is alive. Lynn picks it up. She holds it to her chest. She starts to cry. Because this cat represents the paradox of the Elie tornado. How can a wind be strong enough to strip the bark off a tree and scour the asphalt off a road, but leave a cat alive in a pile of rubble? How can it throw a 3-ton van half a mile, but leave a teacup sitting unbroken on a fence post? This is the mystery. This is the question that will haunt the investigators for the next 6 months. The randomness of the violence. 10 a.m. The white vans arrive. Environment Canada. Men and women in vests get out. They are carrying cameras, tape measures, and clipboards. They look serious. They look like detectives arriving at a murder scene, because that is what this is. It is a forensic investigation. The suspect is the wind. The victim is the town. They start at the edge of the track. F0 damage here, one of them says, pointing to some loose shingles. F1 here, pointing to a broken window. They move deeper in. F2, he says, looking at a roof that has been torn off. F3, looking at a wall that has been collapsed. Then they reach the center, the Reimer Foundation. They stop. They stand in a circle around the empty concrete slab. One of the engineers, a veteran who has seen storms all over the prairies, scratches his head. "Where is the house?" he asks. "Dawn," the local fire chief says. "Gone," the local fire chief says. "Scattered." "Where is the debris field?" "Everywhere. East, west, up." The engineer kneels down. He looks at the foundation. He runs his hand over the concrete. He is looking for something specific. He is looking for anchor bolts. We talked about these in Act 2. These are the steel rods that hold the house down. In 1999, the Moore, Oklahoma tornado was rated F5 because it swept houses away. But later, engineers found out that some of those houses weren't bolted down properly. They were just nailed to the concrete. It doesn't take an F5 wind to push a nailed house off a slab. An F3 can do it. So the rating depends on the bolts. The engineer finds one. It is a steel rod, half an inch thick. It is embedded deep in the concrete. But the top of it, the part that was sticking up into the wood, is bent. It is twisted. And there is wood attached to it. Splinters. "Look at this," he calls to his colleague. The colleague comes over. "The bolt didn't fail," the engineer says quietly. "The washer didn't pull through. The wood, the sill plate, it disintegrated. This is a critical distinction. If the bolt breaks, it might be bad steel. If the nut comes off, it might be a bad construction job. But if the bolt holds and the wood shatters, that means the force of the wind was greater than the tensile strength of the lumber. It means the house didn't just fall down. It was ripped apart at a molecular level." "This is big," the colleague says. "This is high-end F4. Maybe more." But they are cautious. In Canada, they are conservative with ratings. We have never had an official F5. Not since records began. The Edmonton tornado in 1987-27, dead, was an F4. The Regina cyclone in 1912-28, dead, was an F4. To give an F5 rating is to rewrite history. It requires extraordinary evidence. "We need the video," the lead investigator says. "I heard there's a video." While the engineers study the foundation, a team of volunteers is walking the fields. They are looking for clues, and what they find is surreal. Justin Hobson, the student who filmed the tornado, is part of the cleanup. He walks into the wheat field east of the town. The field is a disaster. It is covered in a layer of pink fluff. Insulation. It looks like cotton candy that has been stomped into the mud. But then he sees the heavy stuff. The Chrysler Intrepid. We saw it fly in Act 2. Now we see the landing. It is upside down. It is crushed flat. It looks like a soda can that has been stepped on. It is sitting on top of a neighbor's roof 3 houses down from where it started. How much force does it take to lift a 3,500-pound car, throw it 100 meters, and land it on a roof? Calculations are made. Trajectories are plotted. Then, the van. The 3/4-ton GMC van, filled with drywall. 6,000 pounds. They find it in the field. It is mangled. The engine block has been ripped out. Filled with drywall. 6,000 pounds. They find it in the field. It is mangled. The axles are twisted like pretzels. But the most chilling discovery isn't the heavy metal, it's the paper. A farmer, 30 kilometers away, calls the police station. "I found something in my field," he says. He drives into town. He hands the officer a piece of paper. It is a canceled check. It belongs to the Reimer family. It was sucked out of their home office, lifted into the stratosphere, carried by the jet stream for 20 miles, and deposited gently in a field near Winnipeg. This is the debris signature. It tells the scientists how high the debris cloud went. To carry paper that far, the updraft had to be punching through the top of the troposphere. It had to be reaching altitudes of 40, 50,000 feet. The energy required to do that is equivalent to a small nuclear weapon detonating every second. The pieces are coming together. The scouring. The debarked trees. The vanished house. The flying van. The paper in Winnipeg. The evidence is screaming. F5. But still, the hesitation. Why? Because nobody died. The hesitation. Why? Because nobody died. It is a grim reality of meteorology that death equals severity. When we think of bad storms, we count the bodies. Bangladesh, 1989, 1,300 dead. Tri-state tornado, 1925, 695 dead. Elie Manitoba, 0 dead. Psychologically, it is hard to rate a storm as the most violent in history when everyone walked away. It feels disrespectful to the tragedies of the past. So the initial rating comes out. Environment Canada issues a press release. F4. Winds up to 330 km/h. It is a high rating. It is a devastating rating. But it is not the top. It is not the monster. The residents of Elie are confused. They saw the monster. They felt it. Lynn Kauppila is staying with relatives. She reads the newspaper. F4. She shakes her head. They didn't see it, she says. They didn't see the housefly. But science is self-correcting. The investigation is not over. There is a meeting in a conference room in Winnipeg. The top meteorologists in the country are gathered. Engineers from the University of Western Ontario, the wind engineering experts, are dialed in on a conference call. On the screen, they are playing a video. It is Justin Hobson's footage. They play it at normal speed. Then they slow it down, frame by frame. Stop, the lead engineer says. The image freezes. Timestamp 6:38:15 p.m. On the screen, the Reimer House is airborne. Look at the rotation, the engineer says. The house is rotating counterclockwise. So it's not just tumbling. It's being spun by the vortex while it is in the air. They advance the frame. Look at the walls, he points. They are intact here, and gone. They watch the house disintegrate in midair. The room is silent. We need to run the math on this, the engineer says. To snap a wood frame house into splinters in midair without it hitting the ground, the wind shear has to be astronomical. They pull up the blueprints of the house. They look at the anchor bolts again. They calculate the tensile strength of the spruce lumber. They calculate the surface area of the walls. They plug the numbers into the model. The computer spits out a number. 350 km/h? No. 380 km/h? No. 400 km/h? No. 400 km/h. Higher. The result comes back 420 km/h. The room goes quiet. 510 km/h. The room goes per hour per slide skyer. The Rhyr, that is faster than the Oklahoma tornado, that is faster than the Joplin tornado, that is quite possibly the fastest wind speed ever captured on video analysis. It's an F5, the engineer says. There is no other option. It's an F5, September 18, 2007. 3 months after the storm. Environment Canada issues a correction. It is a dry, bureaucratic document. But the headline makes history. It is a dry, bureaucratic document. But the headline makes history. Elie tornado. Upgrade to F5, first confirmed F5 tornado in Canadian history. The news travels fast. For the people of Elie, it is a strange badge of honor. They didn't just survive a storm. They survived the storm. They survived the king of winds. It validates their trauma. They survived the storm. They survived the king of winds. It validates their trauma. It tells them, you weren't crazy. It really was that bad. But it all the base. The question keeps coming back, louder now. If it was an F5, why are you alive? Let's analyze the miracle. It wasn't divine intervention. It was a specific set of variables aligning perfectly. Variable 1, the slow speed. The tornado was moving at a walking pace. 10 km/h. This gave people time. It gave Lynn and Les time to get to the basement. It gave the Reimers time to drive away. If this tornado had been moving at 60 miles per hour, like the tri-state tornado, nobody would have had time to react. The house would have been hit while they were eating dinner. Variable 2, the path. The tornado was a drill bit. It was narrow. The path. The tornado was a drill bit. It was narrow. The path of total destruction was only about 300 meters wide. It threaded the needle. It hit the mill, destroyed 4 houses, and then moved into the field. If it had shifted 500 meters to the north, it would have gone right down Main Street. It would have hit the school. it would have hit the community center. Variable 3, the housing stock. Elie is a prosperous town. The houses are well built. They have basements. In parts of the U.S. where death tolls are high, many people live in mobile homes or houses on slab foundations. In Elie, almost everyone had a hole in the ground to hide in. Variable 4, the time of day. 6:30 p.m. on a Friday in June. It wasn't midnight. It wasn't 9 a.m. It was widely visible. It was bright. People could see it coming. But even with all these variables, it was still luck. Pure, blind, dumb luck. Because if the Reimers had decided to leave 5 minutes later, they would be dead. If Lynn and Les had stayed in the kitchen for one more drink, they would be dead. If the Jeep caught on the highway had been thrown into a car instead of a field. It is a game of inches, and in Elie, the inches broke in favor of the humans. We can clean up the lumber. We can pave the roads. We can rebuild the houses. But we cannot fix the mimes so easily. Post-traumatic stress disorder in tornado survivors is specific. It is triggered by the environment. For years after the event, Lynn and Les Kauppila cannot look at the sky. If a cloud turns dark, the heart rate spikes. The breath shortens. The body remembers the pressure drop. It is called meteorological anxiety. Every time the siren tests go off in the neighboring towns, the people of Elie freeze. They check the radar. They obsess over the weather apps. They become amateur meteorologists because they know something that the rest of us don't. They know that the drill bit, the skinny, harmless-looking rope, can turn into a monster in seconds. They have lost their innocence. The normalcy bias is gone forever. But there is also resilience. A year later, the rebuilding begins. The Reimers build a new house. On the same foundation? No. But on the same land. Lynn and Les rebuild. The town refuses to die. There is a community barbecue. People gather. They drink beer. They laugh. But they all glance at the horizon. They check the western sky. Just to be sure. What did we learn from Elie? Science learned that width does not equal strength. Before Elie, many textbooks assumed that narrow tornadoes were weak. Elie proved that a tornado the width of a city block can pack the punch of a nuclear blast. It changed the way spotters are trained. Now when they see a rope, they don't say it's roping out. They say, watch out, it could be tightening. We learned about construction. The anchor bolts on the Reimer House held. The house was destroyed, yes, but the foundation survived. The basement survived. The basement survived. The code worked. It saved lives. This data has been used to improve building codes across Canada. But for the listener, for you, what is the lesson? Maybe it is about the fragility of the things we call permanent. We look at our houses, we look at our heavy vans, we look at our asphalt roads. We think they are solid. We think they are immutable. But the atmosphere, that thin layer of gas that wraps our planet, doesn't care about our permanence. It is a fluid. It is dynamic. It is alive. And when the conditions are right, when the humidity is high and the shear is strong and the cap breaks, that fluid can become a solid hammer. Let's go back to Elie. It is the evening of June 23, 2007, 24 hours after the impact. The sun is setting again. The rescue trucks are packing up. The lights are flashing. Lynn and Les are standing by their ruined property. The silence of the aftermath is finally breaking. Listen. Chirp. A robin. Then another. The birds are coming back. They land on the broken branches of the debarked trees. They land on the twisted fence posts. They begin to sing. It is the sound of life returning to a dead zone. Nature is indifferent. It destroys with one hand, and it rebuilds with the other. The storm was not evil. It was not malice. It was just energy. It was just heat trying to find a balance. The energy is gone now. The balance is restored. The miracle monster has vanished into history. But in the memories of those who saw the white snake dance, and in the engineering textbooks that had to be rewritten, the wind is still blowing. It is still spinning, and it is waiting for the next hot summer day. And this has been the Miracle Monster, the LEF5. Thank you for listening.